Hello viewers and welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm your host Minara. We have a really great topic today. But before I introduce the topic, I want to introduce my very special guest. Her name is Jushna Begum Koly. Welcome Koly. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming. Right, our topic today is an interesting topic and we've all, we're all doing it at the moment or some form stage in our lives.
That's right.
Adult education.
Yes, it is. We are.
So tell me a bit about yourself. I'm sure the viewers will be interested to know as well.
Well, I have worked with children's services for many years, 7-8 years now. I've also worked with adult social workers, recently worked at the coroner services, supporting many charities. So yeah, that's my background.
Amazing, varied background.
I have done various type of work within the community, as well as outside the community as well. So that's what I've been doing.
So you've had a vast range of life experience as well as your
I would like to think
professional background
yes.
as well. So today's topic, as we said, is adult education. Mm-hmm. So give me your thoughts on adult education, even yourself. How did you gain experience, qualifications, just maybe a few key experiences in
We're in an amazing country where it's a land of opportunities. We have ample opportunities given to us. And adult education is one of them, which is amazing. And many education are free at the moment in UK, which is super great.
Super great. Okay. Super great. You're right. There are a lot of channels that people can study through.
Of
adults. Have you gone back as a mature student?
I have. Would you believe? I have. I wasn't fortunate enough at the time to complete, or mature enough at the time to complete my education. So given the opportunity, I did seize it. I did go back a few years back. In fact, even today, I think there are times if there's something that interests me, I will not hesitate to go back. I do not believe there is an end to adult education.
Would you like to say some of the qualifications or courses that you've been on? I mean, it's nice to hear experiences, actual experiences from an individual.
Well, to help me professionally, to help me rise up the ladder, I have gone back to adult education and I've completed my HND, did the business management course a few years back. Recently, I've done the childcare course level 3 and 4, which I've just completed. Currently, I don't know if I'm going to pursue this as a career, but just keen and interested really, looking into a dental nurse. Some of them were free, others weren't free. I have to pay for them. So, but yes, there's always space to learn, and at the same time, I'm working full time.
You said you gained H&D qualification in business management. So how has that enhanced you? That particular qualification, how has that enhanced you? Or what skills has that given you in particular? There are a lot of people who do different IT or business management or health and social care or different
Sure.
things. So how has that particular course
Well, it's
subject
helped me to understand how the entire role works. It teaches you, or it's taught me, how to brainstorm the entire position, structure things. I have learnt how shall I say this? I have learnt so much as a person. There's so much skills that I was able to carry forward professionally, and that has helped me to grow professionally as well, climb up the ladder, manage my own team. And they are skills that I have learnt through the education scheme, which should I was to maybe educate when I was 19, 20, 21, I probably wouldn't have learnt at that time. I wasn't so keen at the time. But later when I realised I did need that education, I did need to learn that sort of skill, which was going to help me professionally. I did go back and it did help me.
The other thing, the other important, I would say, how to, you know, sometimes looking for that right subject, the right course. How did you actually go about enrolling as well? Could you know things? What did you do? How did you search for it? You know, the information. How do you acquire the information for a particular subject or course?
It's 2017. There's so many avenues of finding courses. We have online access. We have courses. There's so much support and network that are available to us at the moment. And it really depends on individual people, really, what you want to do, where your passion lies. And because I wanted to manage my own team, and I wanted to gain a bit of insight to how to manage the whole process of managing the entire team. So I took an interest. I Googled, found somewhere local to educate myself, try and get some experience, and there you go.
And you also, obviously, if you're fortunate enough to finance your own education, great. But some are not so fortunate if funding and finance. So
there's so much funding opportunities available as well at the moment. I think depending on the course, depending on your personal circumstances as well, there are ample opportunities of funding as well at the moment.
The other I mean, we all have challenges also that we face. Do you have any key experiences or, you know, challenges that you faced during studying, while you were studying?
Well, of course. I mean, as an adult, to go back to studying, or if not go back to study, for one, I think I felt like, what am I doing here? You feel a bit out of place in the beginning. You have to, your confidence doesn't always instantly jump in.
Was it classroom study or was it home studies?
I did classroom studies. I personally felt that was more appropriate for me. Yeah. However, if I think going forward, I probably will do more online due to the fact that my work and everything. I can't commit to classroom studying. However, at that time I was able to, and which was very beneficial because I had one-to-one mentoring, I had a coach, I had the resources were more accessible. Yes, I think, which was beneficial to my course.
As well as using all the facilities.
Of course, and then there's socializing. You also learn from other people. Yes, from the class.
And you're making new friends as well because you're socializing. Right. And not only do you gain knowledge in the classroom, you're also gaining knowledge from other people.
Other people, because everyone's come from a different background, and they're all adults there. Everyone's got a different walk of life. Everyone's got a different story to tell.
So I suppose it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable that,
no, it doesn't.
Am I the only one who's going back into?
No, I think it becomes more easy to come out of your shell. You're not the only person, you're not the only adult who has come back to studying.
No, definitely.
So that's reassuring. I think classroom studying is more beneficial personally because of the support network that you get. There's so much more resource available to you as opposed to online studying where because that's more independent learning, isn't it? If you're studying by yourself online.
Distance learning,
support,
isn't it?
That's
like
right.
Open university.
The support service is there, don't get me wrong, but it's not so close-knit. It's still a distant away, hence it's called distant learning.
I suppose whatever works for an individual, you tailor your needs to your needs.
That's right.
To your needs. The other thing is we have busy lives, so time management. How did you manage your time? Because commitments, we all have other commitments. It could be family, it could be other work commitments.
True. I agree. Being an adult,
so what can you say about time management
is always a bit of a struggle. When you're a student, when you're a young student, things are a lot more different. You have the adult taking
and not so
responsibility,
much commitments, isn't it?
So you are able to dedicate time to your education. But when you're an adult, we do have other commitments. So to dedicate that time is not always easy. But you find it where there's a will, there is a way, they say. So I think you make time depending on how committed or how passionate you are about learning or in the field that you want to actually study or qualify in.
Have you been inspired by anyone, any individual or something that's happened to make it, as you mentioned, the dental, you want to study, maybe you're thinking of it going into studying to be a dental nurse? What triggered from being from business management, children's services, the childcare? That's a bit of a leap. I can understand why not. I don't, you know, maybe that's something different. Totally.
I've always been keen in learning different skills and what might potentially be beneficial
it's bettering
to me
yourself
going forward.
As well in ways.
It's also a skill that could be handy for me going forward. I have always worked with children's services and within social services a lot. So I've learned a lot about working with children. I didn't initially want to qualify myself doing a diploma at level 3 and level 4 simply because I didn't think I would work in schools. I had this impression that that qualification would only allow me to work in schools.
Oh, so did you actually work in a school environment?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so
I haven't.
With that qualification, where did you know,
I haven't used that qualification.
Okay,
but I've only just recently had that done last year.
Okay.
However, the only reason why I did is just qualification to have in hand. I have worked with children's services a lot, but I haven't got any specific qualification. I've got experience.
Yes. But as we know, experience is very important as well.
Experience is very important.
And the education side just enhances your
education
learning.
Is something for yourself. I think it's something personal. It's not necessarily, it doesn't always take you everywhere, I believe. However, it can go a long way. It is inspiring. It is a knowledge that you have for yourself.
And for life.
And for life, exactly. And it is inspiring. It is motivating. I believe I do motivate a lot of people when I speak to them. I have a lot of people saying I inspire
How do you
them.
encourage somebody who's, I know as an adult and as a mature person, you can feel there's a lot of hesitant as well as, oh, it's only young people who go back to college and university. How am I going to fit in? So how do you actually, what kind of inspiring words do you give them or encouragement? Say, well, you know, go for it. What do you actually, how do you encourage them? Like you said,
well,
you do inspire a lot of people and do encourage a lot of people.
Well, I think what I've learned is as individuals, this is your life and your life is what you will make it. There is only so much advice and guidance people will give you, whether it's your family or your loved ones, but you need to encourage and motivate yourself. Like I said, we have ample opportunities in the UK and they are there to be grabbed. And if we don't take them, we are not opening doors to ourselves. We can only grow if we take up these opportunities, if we go into educating ourselves, if we can take a new skill on, we can only enhance ourselves, we can only go forward from there, can't we? We can only grow.
Exactly. On a slightly more, talking about celebrities, because I was reading something the other day and I found it really interesting. Even celebrities have gone back to studying. I mean, everybody thinks when someone's on the screen or they're in that position, maybe they've studied for years and years, as you know. It's a general conversation that we even sit down and have in groups. Oh yeah, that person's done, well, maybe because they've studied like this degree, that degree, or acquired this qualification. But actually, I came over when I was also looking into it, someone like J.K. Rowling, she's very famous for the Harry Potter series. I mean, everybody, you know,
very articulate.
She actually did not have that much education as in advanced. She did teach, but she actually went back after she became, you know, the famous for her Harry Potter series.
Yes.
And she went back to do her teaching degree and enhance herself more. And I found that it's really inspiring ways as well. You know, seeing someone in that we know of, people that we see on TV or we read about. Another person you'll know as well, we all know Steven Spielberg. I mean, he's a famous director-producer, famous for films like Schindler's List and Jaws.
That's right.
He went back to, I just find it really, you know, when you talk about other people and see other, he, at the age of 34, he acquired a degree and that was in some form of filmmaking. Exactly. And it was in film and electronic arts. And I found, wow, would you ever think he went back so later when he made all these films so early?
This is very inspiring. And like I said earlier, I think with adult learning, what we have to understand is we can always better ourselves through adult learning.
Oh, yes, of course. But when you hear stories like this and you read upon, I mean, we can go on about famous people or people who have, you know, in positions that we see and we read about.
Talking of which, was it last year or the year before? I recall reading this article about a 70 or an 80-year-old who went back. Oh. I don't know if you recall this story.
Was it last year?
Was it last year or the year before? Okay. I cannot recall, but that was I found it very inspiring. And he went back to uni, and he just wanted to study because his grandchildren were educating themselves, and he just found it so motivating. He wanted to motivate them.
That sounds, you know what, that shows there's no age limit.
And he went on and he graduated, I believe, if I'm correct. Don't quote me. I'm going to try and get I'm trying to get my facts right. And I found that so inspiring. I don't think should be an end to learning. There is never an end to learning. We learn from, I mean, adults as, you know, they learn from their grandchildren, because time goes on. Yeah. We have to learn to walk with time. In order to do that, education is going to upgrade, the system's going to upgrade, and skills are going to be managed differently. Yes. So it's a process. In order to walk with time, it is good to study, it is good to inspire or take on new skills as part of educate or re-educate yourself.
On that note, hold that thought. We're going to go into a short break now, and then we'll be back. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back after the break. We left off with I would say it's an inspiring story. What do you think, Koly?
Yes, of course.
What we left off with, 60-year-old man, you said? Please, tell me the story.
Or, I think he was in his 70s, mid-70s, if I'm correct. I'm trying to remember his name. Mr. Watkins.
Okay.
It's buzzing in my head. Mr. Watkins.
So he was a pensioner.
He was a pensioner. He had gone back and did his graduation, which I found it very inspiring.
Wow.
Very inspiring.
In his 70s and graduation.
That's right. And reading that story, well, I found it very inspiring. I mean, if he could do it, why couldn't I do it? Why couldn't anyone do it?
So he must have, you know, even studying at that age.
I'm not sure what his story was, what inspired him, what triggered him. But from what I remember, I think it was to motivate his grandchildren or whatever it was. So he had gone back, and which I found very inspiring. I'd like to think I can go back. I probably, you know,
no matter what age.
No, I don't think. Well, clearly, age isn't a restriction.
No,
it shouldn't have been an obstacle at all. We shouldn't use age as an obstacle. There is no age. You know, that is why adult learning has been so accessible at the moment.
And percentage has, from what I know, again, not to quote, but I'm sure there's a lot of means and resources that you can search through if you want to look at statistics. But percentage has gone up alone in the UK, in Wales, England, Ireland,
I think
in adult education, mature students going back.
Nationally, I do believe the percentage has grown, and so it should. That's good, because we need more skilled people.
Definitely.
In UK, there was a mass drop of unskilled adults, and it's nice to have many skilled, and there are ample opportunities for jobs as well, and to be skilled in itself is a huge credit to yourself.
Because I know, as well as some people are working, I mean, yeah, if you're not working, you can elaborate and go on to study more accessibly, but it is difficult when you're a working person and you want to fit in the studies. Some opportunities arise through work as well, because there are a lot of opportunities. I mean, I say grab it, whatever opportunities.
Education is something very personal. Adult education, it has to be personal. because as you grow, it's not a choice to be in education. You go into nursery, you follow into primary school. There is not another choice of life.
It's very structured, isn't it?
It's very structured. You're natured that way.
Yeah,
there isn't a choice at all.
Yes.
You go into secondary school, and it's after your secondary school you are left with a choice. Do you continue into further education, or do you what you do?
I know we touched on it when you yourself said about your. What about? Please say some more about your early education. You know, your secondary school education, and then the career path you chose. Why you chose what you did.
Going back to me, I wasn't so fortunate. At the time, I probably wasn't so mature as I am today. I say that. So at the time, I suppose, like any teenager at the time, I didn't want to study, or I had my personal reasons to why I couldn't pursue my education any further. So I had no choice. I had a family of my own very young, so I had my own responsibilities and commitment to fulfill. Priorities were different, I suppose. And eventually, as I was working and developed professionally my career, I realized to climb up the ladder professionally, I needed backing from my education field, which I didn't have.
Which most cases,
other than my GCSEs.
Yes.
So that's when I had gone back, as we were talking about earlier, about commitments. So
yes.
To tie in with my commitments, time management, finding something that works for me, which doesn't affect my home life, as well as my work, my
support. How much support did you get? Because when you have a young family, it is difficult, because you're a working mother, then you've got your family to think about, and a whole other.
I did. If I'm really honest, there was a lot of support available, because there was a lot of
sometimes that
child
can be a barrier as well to
That's right.
carry on. And
But the adult education service, they're also, like I said, the resources they have, the facilities, they were great. They tied in with my family life. They tied in with my ongoing, whether it was childcare, whether it was flexible hours of studying. I was able to cut down, get more further support, maybe online, walking in as a one-to-one to get further support to help me. There were many resources, and I believe there's, going forward, I think there's much more now than what it used to be back then. So that's how I built myself up. I continued to educate myself and build which helped me with my career.
Yeah.
And it's all a domino effect, isn't it? Eventually you learn the value of education,
yes,
which you probably didn't value, or
maybe when you're younger, or when I was younger. Or whatever reasons, whatever personal reasons.
But later I realized how much value the education did have, and the domino effect it had on my professional life, and how it helped me to build or rise up the ladder.
Develop yourself.
And then also to encourage my own children.
No, that's another thing. To better when we're bettering ourselves, we want our children to do even better than us. I mean, every parent want their children to be better than what you ever did, and achieve more.
That's
as
right.
we know. And I think when a young person, whether it's your own children or another young person, like you said, you've worked in children's services, and even to be a good role model, you know, to show, because you can talk about that and the importance. Yeah, maybe at a certain age you might not, but as you go along, you meet a lot of young people, you cross along, and also being good role model for your own children. How has that made, you know, what do your children say about that? Obviously they're seeing my mum, you know, this successful woman who's achieved a lot in different, and they've known your, you know, your education background, that you've gained all these courses. What do they say?
What do they say? I think according to my eldest, for sure, he's a young teenager himself, and going into college now, he finds, I'd like to believe he finds me quite inspiring, or he'll say, you know, he thinks sometimes I am mum/dad. which is nice, to be said. But I'd like to think I can motivate him. I think I have been a motivation to him. I would like to think I have been. It's nice when they come back and ask for advice, because then they know somewhere they must be inspired. They do know that, they do acknowledge that I have gone back, and I've acknowledged that it is important. And through that channel, it clearly was inspiring to my son, for him to ask me for advice, which not every child does go back to their parents.
At home.
At home. So to have that reassures me that clearly this was inspiring to my son. So likewise, when a parent is studying, I think it's always inspiring for the children, because they also know, because you're educating with time.
Yes.
You're not a generation back. So I think it also bridges that gap between the child and the parent as well.
And that relationship.
That relationship,
well,
I think,
with regards to the
exactly.
Now, saying about inspiring and being good role models to your children, even something as if you can study, you know, some parents, you can actually tutor your own child at home. You know, I know a lot of parents do send their children to something basic as maths and English can be done at home as well, and giving that extra. So if you have that skill, or if you will go out to actually just acquire a adult or numeracy simple qualification, because these things can be done through Learn Direct. You can acquire those certificates, and it can be used at home as well. There's, you know, you can start using it at home, educating your own children.
To be honest, touching on that, my maths was never a high point.
I think I can sort of say the same as well.
It was never my strong point. So when my son used to come home with algebras and parameters and all that, I was never so confident. I used to think, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I'm the mum, and I'm supposed to be, I'm supposed to know all of this.
Yeah. And that's what children, exactly, this is it. Children
and
think,
they come
my
to
mum
you
and
with
dad
full
will know
faith.
everything.
Exactly. They come to you with the faith that my parents are going to help. So when I would sit and I think to myself, okay, this is not good. How am I going to be motivating? How am I going to be encouraging my child if I don't know it myself? And that in itself was a challenge. So it's still probably not as weak. To be honest, even today, there are times I test myself as well as my children by giving them maths to do. And sometimes it's silly maths, and sometimes it's really good ones where I still don't know, and they are much better than me because they're in the practice and I'm not.
Learning from them as well, because
again, it's no shame. I still do. I actually learn a lot more from my youngest, who is probably academically slightly more stronger in that field, and I still learn a lot from him.
Oh, great, and then why not? Why not? Now we have touched on home. What about you know, mothers, aunties whose children have grown up? You know, what do they do then? They've not been working mothers, but they, you know, I believe everybody has some form of skills, whether they've enhanced it or not. And what are your thoughts on that? What can
mothers
they do?
And aunties,
why
they
not
are
go back
skilled.
to education? Are they homemakers? Yes.
Yes,
and that is a skill in itself, and you know, a job in itself. So what can they do after?
I think the stigma of women being homemakers, that's silly. We have many men who are homemakers too. What is a homemaker?
It could be male or female.
Two people, you know, who make a home. A home is made not just out of women cooking in the kitchen. These days we have the most top chef in the world. Chefs are what, men?
Men, yes. They're not master chefs.
So why
Indian,
is there a stigma of
English.
women cooking in the kitchen? Why should they be locked up in the kitchen? Why can't they, or you know, if they want to, they have a passion for cooking, there are opportunities out there. Why can't you develop that? Why can't you enhance that?
And this is what we're exactly
and be skilled
saying, exactly,
and
yeah.
educate. So because there are opportunities out here, but you have to have the passion. You have to be determined. You have to be courageous. You have to be willing, and the opportunity is there. But you need to you need to want it. You need to be willing to go out there and educate yourself in that field. And there you go, the world's your oyster.
Even talking about somebody, Nadia Bakeoff.
Hussain,
yes, Nadia Hussain. She's done very well.
She's done very well.
She's done very well. If we're going to talk about somebody who's in there now and who's, because we're talking about cooking, so I'm thinking Nadia with the Bake Off, she's gone.
I think she's done amazing.
She's travelled.
Amazing.
I'm sure, and it's nice to see that as well. She wasn't tied down.
I didn't even know who she was before
baking for family or friends. Exactly.
And now she's baked the cake for the Queen as well.
Exactly, and she's travelled.
Amazing.
She's done documentaries.
She's explored her talent in baking,
cooking.
And as we all know, she's amazing. She's great. I haven't tasted her food yet.
Yeah, I think we should get in contact with her and
Nadia
say,
Hussain, we need to taste her of your cake.
We need to taste your baking as well, please.
I would like a slice of your cake. Yes, she's been crowned the winner. She's a great,
and she's done very well.
Talent. Yeah. And she's done very well, very great inspiration to the next generation who are into baking. Yeah. And in fact, these days we see quite a lot on social media, a lot of people selling their talents, whether if it is to do with baking, cooking, savouries, and they've got their own catering services.
Yeah.
So many entrepreneurs out there now.
Exactly, and not even in only cooking. You've got hair and beauty.
We've got
you
hair
have
and beauty.
mending.
There's so multi-skilled.
Food crafting.
That's right. There's food crafting. There's many workshops.
Many skills that you can. If you're not thinking about like a professional career in, say, law or medicine, these are the things you can do. You can enhance.
There's so much avenue.
Sewing,
there's so
design,
many opportunities.
Textiles.
That's
design.
right. And there are many people who have opened boutiques. Designing their own clothes, or whether it is, like you say, henna. Even with the men, I've seen a lot of people going into DIY, into construction, photographies, many media.
And also, as they're going along, they're enhancing their skills.
They are.
It's not, I've opened up, and this is what everyone should remember. Yes, we can start, but as we go along, because as you said, it's a very fast forward times now. Everything's changing, times change, education change, how you acquire skills, law, rule, legislation change. So you've got to be up to date on whatever field you require to go in. And a skilled
person is always acknowledged a lot more. Doesn't matter which part of the country or world you are in. A skilled person is always going to be flagged up that much more than a non-skilled person. And they may be talented, but because they don't have that skill in a qualification, they are undermined, they are underlooked, but they are just as talented. Going back, as we said, there are many people who are probably hiding in the kitchen, but they are just as talented, just as good, but because they're not skilled or qualified, they are not, graft into the bar graph, shall I say.
And many of our skills are transferable as well. So we're not losing out, even if we gain a qualification or a
I don't understand why do we have to go into a restaurant and always see men and not the only eight waitresses we see are females.
Exactly.
Why have that stigma where females are just as good chefs? So why can't they be in the kitchen?
I mean, there are some restaurants that do have.
There are a lot more now.
A lot more
these
now,
days,
but I think there should be more.
There should be more.
There should be more.
But the stigma of women being in the kitchen is still there.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I don't understand. But it's a different story when it comes to them working outside. It's always the men as the head chef in the kitchen, which I don't understand, because they are able to be skilled.
Yes.
But if a female was to go out and skill herself in cooking, why can't she be awarded the chef? Because she's the chef in the house.
Yep, of course, and the best cook as well.
And she's the best cook.
Chef.
So there are, I think, but things are changing. The world's changing, and through adult education, there are so much to be achieved. You do need to be passionate about what it is you do,
and seek those opportunities as well.
Seek those opportunities because there are opportunities out there. Just go out there.
Now, we are fortunate here. And we're fortunate. I feel sometimes when I come across people and speak to them, I feel they're still, I don't want to say moan, but they're having some kind of grievance. But we're so fortunate here, the access to what we can gain through education, you know, there's channels, you know, even if you're on benefits or whatever, they're still providing, you can still go on courses and things, training as well, you know, just something to start off with. People, when you think about that, why not go out and gain there, don't just sit at home. Where in other developing countries, they want that, they're hungry to go out. You know, in remote villages, we see on the news, we see on TV, where, you know, girls, the lack of education for girls in countries like even in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, or wherever, even in Africa, you know.
Yes, of course.
I'm just naming a few, but it's hard, you know, for even children and even girls, you know, to go into education. There might be some kind of, again, stigma comes into it as well. Yeah. Girls don't need that much education, but the opportunity, they're hungry for it. And we're here and we do not utilize.
We do not utilize, and there's so much opportunities. We have modern apprenticeship and many workplaces offer
simple forms to get into.
That's right. It's a life skill. We should embrace this opportunity that has been given to us, to the entire community, to be honest. And like I say, there's so much that is available out there if we look into it. If we are not able to dedicate the time due to our existing commitments, then there are distant learning, there are online studying, and there are support services available as well, whether it's childminding services, whether it's financial support, whether it's resource help through libraries or one-to-one coaching.
Yes.
A lot is available, but we do need to actually reach out. There are people who have been in the country, whether it's male or female, who have come into the country, and there's a language barrier, or there's a skill barrier, and they're still adjusting. Even, I mean, now obviously there's a requirement, you do have to pass a certain test, which is understandable. English, you need to have, I think, the basic of ESOL. Classic, so
there's different levels, but yes, you have to have the
So you have to have the basic speaking, which will only help yourself to grow.
Exactly.
And you should take the opportunity. I urge everyone, male and female, regardless of how old you are, you should go out there, you should educate yourself. It's free to educate yourself. You are only helping yourself. You can only benefit from adult education. There is no stop. Don't put an obstacle in front of you and put your age in front of you, or think you're alone, because you are not alone.
And I think sometimes it's maybe do we make more excuses than we should? I mean, if we really actually sat down, yes, there's genuinely certain life changes happen and circumstances do arise, but I don't think that should stop us from.
Naturally, I think when you're an adult, you have other commitments, the energy levels are not there. I think the mindset sort of changes, like going back to what we touched on earlier. When you're a student, you don't have responsibilities, so the only world you know is education. But then when you go into an adult, to go back to education as an adult, it is a lot more hard, because you have to juggle your time along with your existing commitments. So I suppose your energy levels are different, your mindset's different. So it is a challenge in itself to go back to education, to re-educate yourself. The mindset is very different, it is very challenging, but it is also very beneficial.
The other thing I'd like to also, there's different avenues, as well as you can, through your own community, you can go into your own community centres, and they provide loads of services. Voluntary services. Of course. If you want to go in as a volunteer to get that taste in, you know, sometimes there's just that building that confidence to get out, see what's
just socializing.
Out there. Yeah, it might be for a short time, but that might just give you that boost.
Exactly.
To get into what you need to, and then you might find your career path. You know, because sometimes I think we find we might be in a job for like 10 years, 12 years. There are some people who've been in jobs for 20 years.
Some people are quite closed and quite comfortable in their zone and don't like exploring till when they have.
or the
they
need to,
realize
or
there's
something
more
happens.
avenues to them.
Yes.
There are more options to them that are available, which they probably was oblivious to because they were so comfortable in their zone.
Yeah, but exactly. So not to be comfortable, there's always, you can discover, or sometimes, you know, when even a person loses their job, you know, a lot of people are made redundant, they don't have a backup plan, and that's a life-changing experience.
Yes, of
so
course.
all the more important to acquire and gain whatever you need to, because then you can filter into and transfer,
of course,
into another
skills
career
are
path.
something that is for life, and any skill
As
I think is transferable.
Repeatedly saying it, because it is important.
It is important,
and
of course
you
it
can
is.
carry
it's a survival
on.
skill.
Yes.
Any skill that you have is a survival skill. You can use it, when I say survival skill, you use it to build yourself, you use it to grow as a person, you use it to grow up the ladder, whether it's to do with professionally or personally in your life. And like I say, there's never an end to it. You can always grow. You can only grow from gaining an education, from obtaining a skill.
On that note, we're going to go on to our next break. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back after the break. Now, let's talk about it. This time, let's talk about different approaches. You know, there's different, we have sort of touched on it here and there as we're reiterating the importance of adult education and learning. Different approaches. There's formal and informal learning.
Well,
what the benefits of informal learning? If somebody doesn't want to go into like a structured learning, which is formal education.
Yes, of course.
As an adult. We're talking about adults here. So yeah, informal learning.
It's just as good. Not everybody has the time or the mental frame or the capability, the capacity to go into formal learning, which is understandable. Everyone has different levels of ability. So through informal learning, you can obtain still so much more skills, and it's so accessible nowadays. I mean,
and you can base it on your, as we did also touch in the previous segment, about skills you already have.
That's right.
Certain skills like in cooking or design, arts, or whatever it is, life experiences.
Informal learning, yeah. For example, I don't have a passion as such in fruit carving.
Yes.
But there was a time when I wanted to learn how to carve fruits and display myself.
Where did that passion sparkle from?
It was spark off from weddings,
yeah.
And I saw all these people carving fruits, and I used to be so fascinated by how they can use a small knife and carve all these fruits into so many beautiful fruits and flowers and swans and their names. And I thought, wow, how do they do this? I was so fascinated by it all. And a lot of them are not even talented. They're not skilled or qualified skilled, but they are able to create these beautiful
masterpieces. You have to say. Some are masterpieces,
and some of them pursued it into work, into professions. So I went into volunteering, helping this friend of mine and running a workshop. I wasn't qualified myself, but through informal learning, through YouTube, through general practice, through watching my aunties, my friends and family carving fruits, and from carving wood, carving candles. It's been amazing, and I think I can safely say I'm not an expert, I'm not qualified, but through informal learning I am able to dish up at least a few pieces myself, or just pull off an occasion myself. I can safely say
again,
that.
your creative side and you've enhanced it in that way, and it just shows that maybe somebody who doesn't want to go into that structured kind of sitting in a classroom or even at home in that structured environment to do that life experiences, and you had that there. That's right. But you just wanted
that's
to
just
gain
one thing
more.
I mean many people, if you don't have the time, if you cannot commit, if you don't have the same dedication to sit in a classroom and get formal education, then it is never too late. You can still obtain skills. Nowadays we have all this social media. There's so much being taught, so many tutorials.
YouTube tutorials. I think it's hit on a mega high. Mega high, because everything and anything.
I am a loyal follower of tutorials. I educate myself every day.
Again, there you go.
Whether it's to do a hijab, style a hijab, whether it's to do makeup, whether it's to do my hair, whether it's to style my home, whether it's to do with my gardening.
It's so much.
Food, you name it. I educate myself about my car, because I am not. I
and
drive.
A woman should always know what's underneath.
But I am able to go into YouTube and try and act like I know it all to my male friends, but all through YouTube, all to glory to all glory to YouTube.
But isn't that again? It's a form of learning.
Of course,
you're learning,
of course,
and you apply those minute, the small details that you can get on some of these tutorials. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
It doesn't matter what it is to do
as
with.
a human being, as a female, as I am very confident, more so because of all these access that I have of informal learning. I can educate myself, whether it's through Google, whether it's through social media, whether it's through YouTube, whether it's whatever. There's ample, like I said, there's ample opportunities. I am,
and nobody can say that they don't have
confident.
access to some form of social media, because everyone's on Facebook. Even Facebook, pages. People creating pages.
There's many
that,
pages.
You can go on and see, look into.
To educate yourself, whether it's through formal or informal, it is so accessible, so easy these days. I, for one, as a person, I think I've become more and more confident as a person, because I know I am able to educate myself
and access those
because
outlets.
I have access all these there's all these materials, resources I have, and I can educate myself if I wanted to. If I had the passion, I am able to. So
because people start up, again, your business management thing, people sit at home and start up businesses in their own front room,
of course,
and hence they YouTube and their Instagram.
I think sometimes I used to underestimate myself a lot. I don't anymore. I think I've come to a stage where I can safely say, even in terms of DIY, I myself used to have this stigma of me being a woman. I probably won't be able to.
Okay, only men. Oh, you need a man around the house, basically.
But that is no longer true
at all.
I have done the flooring myself in my own house. Whether it's painting, making a bed, wardrobe, I have done it.
Or even changing the light bulb, a few.
That's the easy bit now. But I have taken that skill on, and with the grace of God, you know what? I may not be skilled, I may not be qualified, but I have the basic knowledge. I am able to do it myself. Whether it's DIY, I've even done gas work. I've put my own. There's many things that I have.
Because certain things you can, without even calling out a plumber or an electrician or something, certain things that can be done at home and safe to do at home. Obviously, we're not saying go and do your gas work, so do not do that.
No, do not do that.
So, but simple things. Even when you're calling up the emergency services, they'll tell you to do simple things. Go through your checks, do that, do this.
Now,
things like that. So it's not.
There are certain repair services in many landlords actually urge the tenants to do the basic repairs themselves, because they believe you can do it yourself. You do not need to call the repair services.
Yeah,
so again, it's because they're basic skills. They also expect you to know these basic skills, and you shouldn't or they sometimes, a lot of the housing officers now refuse to come out and do certain repairs
Yes.
because they're so basic. They expect you
or
to
there's
know.
a delay, and by the time they come and have a look at it or assess
Exactly.
it, they tell.
So
can
I
assess it
think
yourself.
it is useful to try and educate yourself in basic fields, and just.
So that, so more so, I would say informal learning, and is about your connected through life experiences. Now the formal, why people want that formal learning? Because everybody's different. Some people, for me, I would say maybe it is because I want that acknowledgement and I want it on a certificate, or I want that graduation.
Of course,
because I want that, you know.
It's acknowledgement of your skill
there.
As well as.
How do you feel about that?
A source of appreciation.
Formal approach.
I strongly agree. I'm strongly for it. I urge anyone and everyone to go into formal learning. Reason being is, yes, you will get some sort of acknowledgement for your skill. You do get appreciated when you have a certificate that identifies your qualification, that identifies your skill, that identifies your expertise in that field. Yeah. There is a large margin for you, so it opens doors for you, like I say. So yes, I'm always for formal learning.
Formal learning as well, because
I encourage anyone and everyone, do not put obstacles for yourself. Formal learning is always beneficial. I don't think there's many drawbacks there.
No, of course not. It's good, and also when you acquire something, you can take it with you wherever, because if you want to travel, even you want to work abroad, you know, there's also working abroad even isn't that straightforward. You need certain, you know, places like when you even want to go and work in Dubai, for example, because I have a lot of people that I know who've gone to work in Dubai as teachers or whatever role they've taken on, and before that they need to take some tests here, actually in the UK,
which is understandable. I mean, surely you can understand when we have migrants coming into UK. There's a reason why there's a protocol that's been set where they have to at least speak the general language,
the language,
because otherwise we have a language barrier, and if there's no form of communication, we are not going to achieve the task in hand. Defeats the purpose of them being in any kind, or to offer them any kind of work. That, you know, there's so we need to address that. So when you do have a certain skill, and if you do have a certificate or some sort of qualification backing your skill, it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, it does help. It is beneficial. Vice versa, for people who come into this country, if you are skilled, you are able to walk into some sort of career path. But if you are not skilled, you do have to take a step back, because you need to
start from the beginning.
So having skilled, whether it's through formal or informal, is always beneficial. Formal does help you that much more. It's a big push. It does help you a lot more going forward. However, informal skills isn't always bad at the same time. It doesn't always take you as far, but at the same time, it doesn't stop you. So either way, if you can excel yourself in any way, please do.
Of course. And we've touched on resources and where you can gain information. Again, going over like places like Learn Direct, your local community centres, because there's loads of training courses that you can go on, whatever availability. Go to events as well. There's a lot of job fair events and education events as well. So those are the kind of things that, you know, just telling our viewers.
There are so many voluntary positions they offer now as well.
And you can go on to work.
Exactly.
So I think pathing out and making a plan for yourself, if you are a person who wants to go into some kind of form of career or path or work, and you want to do it through education, you know, gaining some form of education or acquire a qualification or training. These are outlets, and you have mentioned earlier on about colleges, libraries.
Yes, of course.
Even in East London, we have the Idea stores in Tower Hamlets. There's other community centres, and libraries are all throughout everywhere. UK, you get libraries.
Throughout, I think nationally there are community centres which are offering many voluntary services as well as education. whether it's in a church, whether it's in a maktab, whether it's in you know, a gurdwara. There are community services, there are community centres which are offering many schools language
for
classes,
mothers, if mothers or fathers want to work
skills.
around timetables.
In fact, even to explore your, to bring you out of your shell, to bring out your confidence, there are classes now, and they're all free. A lot of them are free nationally.
Can you elaborate what are the classes?
From what I understand, there are a lot of classes that are being run for vulnerable adults, for example. There are classes where you can speak about your weaknesses to build your confidence level, depending on where your weaknesses are. There are many services available, not just in Tower Hamlets, but throughout the borough, nationally.
Just naming a few.
Outside London, whether it's Manchester.
UK-wide, really.
Exactly, and we should take advantage of it. I mean, they provide free first aiders in many places now. Again, it's a skill.
It's a skill set. Yes,
you know, you could save a life. You could save your own life. They teach you how to, you know, acknowledge the symptoms that you are having now.
Just basic knowledge. Even
just
you can use
basic knowledge,
home,
basic skills. There's so much out there for adults to self-teach yourself.
Gain and just absorb. It is about absorbing.
It is.
There's no end. There's, you know, you're absorbing.
No end.
You're constantly
I mean, we have so many adults at the later stage, past 60, where they sometimes are living alone. So they are being taught how to communicate if they have any impairment, if they have any infirmity with a disability. So they're being taught, for example, how to acknowledge if they were going into a stroke or if they were having a heart attack, whilst they still can respond, how to reach out for help. And again, it's a skill, how to master that, how to reach out to help. That's a skill in itself.
So you're constantly acquiring, no matter what age.
It doesn't matter what age you are.
Because it is a whole round about educating yourself.
Exactly.
As well, whether you do it, again, going back to informal, formal. The lifelong learning, it's important.
It is
for
important.
All of us. Whether we want to use it in our workplace, our personal lives, or even, you know, to motivate others. Really,
exactly. Lifelong learning is something well, any learning is lifelong. It stays with you.
Yes,
educating yourself, adult education is very important. It's accessible more and more as days go on. The resources are just, you know, it's getting bigger and larger and larger.
So there's really no excuses.
There shouldn't be any excuses.
There isn't anything for me. If there's not anything in your local area, go out a bit. You know, go out a bit.
You can go out a bit, like we spoke about earlier. Even if you
really
cannot go out, there's you know, there's devices where you can learn from home.
Yes, of course. Again, you know, home learning.
Exactly. There's home learning. There's online learning. You know, it really depends. There shouldn't be an excuse. We shouldn't make excuses for ourselves, our parents, or the adults here. We have the opportunity. We should explore this, and it's only to better ourselves and our lifestyle. It could only be healthy for us.
And also,
going forward.
as adults, we can hand that down to the next generation.
Of course, at
whether
the same
it's your
time,
family members or people you come across, young people you're handing down. You can hand down your knowledge.
You can hand down your knowledge. You also, without anything, you become an inspiration to the next generation.
As you mentioned before about, you know, grandparents and parents.
Well, we spoke about Mr. Watkins.
Watkins,
who,
yes, exactly.
At 73,
How can we
graduated
Mr. Watkins?
as a pensioner, and I think he did 2.1 degree or something. So that's amazing. And if he could do it,
even
anyone
listening
can do it.
to it, you know, hearing about it, just
that's
really,
very inspiring.
It puts a smile on your face, doesn't
of course.
it? You know what? There's no end.
No, there isn't.
Keep on saying there's no end. Why, especially, we wanted to discuss on adult education is there's no. It's there's no end.
There is no end. It can only open avenues. Like I say, you can only better yourself. You can only build. There's more ample opportunities that are going to knock your door if you was to qualify. Even if you didn't qualify, having that skill, exploring yourself, you could only excel in yourself. It's always a positive to continue in adult education.
Also, did you, just before we, I mean, it's been amazing, our chat and the topic we've discussed, and hope to discuss more in future different topics. Thank you, Koly.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this beautiful subject.
Really
I hope I was able to inspire all the adults out there.
I'm sure you've inspired more viewers.
And there are services out there. Please go out. If there's something that you want to explore yourself into, look into, please do. Don't stop yourself. There's services out there. If not, contact Minara.
A great message to inspire people. But just before we leave, I'd like to end our topic with an amazing education quote. There's many out there, but I thought this one was very nice and simple and to the point. It's by Brian Herbert, and here it goes. The capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill. The willingness to learn is a choice. Don't forget that, viewers. Till next time, bye for now.